Hey, everybody, and welcome to the truth about dyslexia and the dyslexic entrepreneur. Today, I've got a very special guest, David Chalk. Now, I've just read a bit more about his profile in the last few days. I've seen some of the videos he's produced. He is an amazing advocate in this space. He's an amazing entrepreneur, and I can't wait for you to hear his story. So I'm not going to dive in and tell you too much about it. You're going to have to listen to this. But welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. Looking forward to.
Well, let's dive in. Like I like to. I don't know about you, but I'm not. I've never been a small talker. I've never been a how's the weather kind of guy. I like to get the meat of the conversation, get the brain really ticking. So let's start at the beginning of your story. Like, what was it like being a kid, diagnosed or undiagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD? And let's start at the beginning.
Well, I'll give it to you in a nutshell because there is so much there that basically from birth to going into school, I was considered a gifted child. I was far ahead from my age, building, planning, cooking, painting. And I had amassed a fairly good oral vocabulary. I could speak very well. We had just moved from England, so we came to Canada. And within a couple of weeks of that, I was walked into the school. And I was the last one in the classroom. And the teacher said, "David, why don't you go to the front of the class and read for us?" Now, I could read a tiny bit, but I had major anxiety that morning going in because my no one had ever heard an English accent to begin with. But I was handed the Bible to read, and it may as well have been German or Farsi. I could not focus on it, and I literally fell to the ground out of panic attack. Unfortunately, it didn't go well in the classroom because the teacher didn't know how to deal with it, and the class had a lot of fun with it. And in a nutshell, the next 12 years of my education were my living hell. I call children that have this happen to them the walking dead. I was never diagnosed. That happened when I was 42. And when that diagnosis happened, I went to get it myself because I needed to understand why I could do so much, yet I was called so dumb and stupid. I was put in politically incorrect, but mentally retarded school that my mom had to get me out of and get me back into mainstream. And when they tested me, their first comment back, I went back a week later and they said, "David, how do you survive every day?" Because my neurodiversity, dyslexia, ADHD, prosopagnosia were so far on the bell curve that I'm in the 1 percentile. And I said, "Well, this is how life is for me. Isn't it like this for everyone?" And I started realizing I better research it a bit more. You know, I did a number of things. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't as dumb and stupid because when I left school, the counselor told my mom and me that people like David end up on welfare, poverty, on the street, dead or in jail. That was the parting words for me. And if anything, it ignited me because I didn't understand it's actually true in a sense that children who are not reading at grade level have about a 30% chance of ending up in one of those sad categories. And we can see that in the US right now because you lose critical thinking right away. You never had it. And you're not driven to learn and look at different sources for information. Well, I was, and I challenged a university entrance exam just for the heck of it. I knew I couldn't go because I couldn't write, spell, or read, but I wanted to see how I do. And I got a letter from that university about 3 months later saying, "So sorry for the long delay in getting this to you, but you're getting an honorary full scholarship to go through the aerospace engineering program because you solved a question on that exam that no one ever had solved before." We had to send it to Stat. And, you know, it was sad. And I didn't take the offer because they weren't going to offer me any help. I knew what school was like, but it was mixed emotion because I'd always known that I could do things creatively if I was given and I had the passion and the right environment. So it gave me some freedom. The next thing I did, I thought, well, if I'm not going to be an aerospace engineer, I'm going to be an airline pilot. So I went out to the airport to learn to fly and actually asked the instructor, "Can I take the plane off?" I had watched a number of videos, kind of like pattern learning, which we're very good at doing. And he said no, but I asked him and I took off the plane from a massive airport, flew it around, put it in a spin. He was flipping out. And I said, "I know what to do to get it out of this." Flew it back and he was shaking when he got out. And he said, this is a prank, right? And I said, "No, that's a pattern. You just saw how my brain thinks. I can manage this aircraft. I can see spatial orientation. And through watching a few old VCR videos, I picked it up. And that's the dilemma of a really neurodivergent brain is most people never get the chance to show it because they're destroyed in those early years. I call those children. Yeah.
And just to completely break your train of thought here, because this is a fantastic story. That is an amazing story about getting that entrance question right, because it's sort of the dyslexic way. Like when we do the 10% that seems impossible, we do easily, but the 80% that should be easy takes us the most energy and is the hardest. Is it like have you seen the recent study that came out around how they actually now believe dyslexia is an evolutionary change rather than a problem? They actually think now that it's actually not, we're not mentally retarded. Like it was thought we were actually evolving to be beyond where people are today. So it's actually, there's a study, I can't remember where it is. I did a podcast on it a while back, but it's amazing. Right? And exactly what you just said there, you proved that your way of thinking could take the human race further than what the average person could do.
Well, that gave me goosebumps because I've never heard it, but I believe it because I've been around dyslexic people. I see what they're capable of. But unfortunately, learning English is the hardest language there is to learn. And we prevent it by forcing people to phonetically decode words on a page when we don't know the meaning, the proper sounding, we don't get the right help. So I look at it that I crashed and burned on day one emotionally, and fear blocks out curiosity. And you need to be curious in school. So the moment we start to go downhill, our brains are cognitively declining, lower oxygen, constant anxiety, and turns into trauma. But I truly believe you. And my goal, we can talk about it later, is I want to get all dyslexic children through education because it's their time right now with AI.
And stay tuned, guys, because this is what he's doing is amazing. And I think this is the key. And why it's so amazing with your story is like myself going to become an entrepreneur. You took those challenges and like I'd love to hear the rest of like how did you? Because again, you went into business, you created lots of interesting stuff from what I've read. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear some of those interesting stories.
Well, I will say, I just want the audience to know it's not about boasting because most dyslexics, we don't have that in us because we always think we're going to get called out or shot down. But if I gave you a high level recap, I got my airline transport rating for a pilot, one of the youngest in Canada, ever trained to fly a 737. My ADHD couldn't deal with the cockpit, so I had to leave. I bought an Apple II computer at the very beginning. I thought, wow, these are kind of neat. One day they'll work for everyone. I took it apart, saw how it worked. Said to my brother, why don't we build computers? We didn't know anything about them. We started a company. We took it up to about $150 million, multiple locations in Canada and the US. We won practically every award for innovation and growth and companies to work for. I had over 500 employees. I didn't know what I was doing, but the mind, you just have to think about it and say, okay, what is the right thing to do? And what's the outcome I'm looking for? I was the developer with one of my companies of learning management systems. That's the software people use to manage videos. And I developed all the first side of that. I developed the first online video on a mobile device before the iPhone was out. I did it for BlackBerry, the company, and it was used for the US military to train technicians in the field. If they were working on a weapon or a Humvee or something that they didn't understand, they could see the video on how to repair it. So that was a first as well there. I developed a television show that aired all over North America and parts of Europe, radio call-in talk shows. My whole passion was computers are going to change people's lives, and people with a neurodivergent trait in them can use that support, like fundamentally a spell checker, but AI is, going to take the cake on it all now. So everything I have ever done, and I've done a number of other companies, underneath them all is helping other people succeed.
Yeah. And what you said there was really interesting, David. And what really got to me is that, we aren't big braggers. True dyslexics do not overly brag because most of us kind of feel like we've winged our whole life. Like we've just given it a shot and we've been lucky. Like I hear too many dyslexics say we've been lucky. And I did some research on this through the Davis method kind of process. And what they talk about is they say the issue with ADHD and dyslexia is we have a really broken timeline. We really struggle with time. We always go the pretty way. We never go the straight line. It's because we struggle with cause and effect. What actually caused that effect? What was the actual knock on? And so we can end up with a really great or a terrible result. And we don't blame ourselves usually as bad as we think for even the good or the bad. We just kind of take it as that's happened. Now let's keep going. Do you know what do you kind of get that feeling? Does that make sense?
I understand fully. We've been humiliated so much in life and shame that we think we're going to get called out. I've been on world stages. I've won so many awards. And as I'm standing up there each time, what's going through my head? They made a mistake picking me because I'm a fraud, not in the sense of a real fraud, but if they knew what happened in my brain to get here, they wouldn't understand it. I'm not in stream with most of those people. So yeah, if you recall, I missed the last filming or airing of your podcast when we talk about time. I completely screwed up, didn't I?
I'll be honest. Don't you worry, David. That happens 9 times out of 10. It's hilarious. I'm so used to it now. People miss the podcast. I say to people usually at the beginning, we're going to talk over each other multiple times. That's natural. I expect it. Because this is the way our brains work. Our brains are too fast, right?
I can hear while you're talking, like in real time, right? So yeah, no problem.
No, I love it, man. And so, but you've had such a great list, like from your entrepreneurial experience. Like, here's a question I have, for entrepreneurs out there. It's one of the biggest challenges for ADHD dyslexia entrepreneurs I talk to is getting going. We have this internal fear about what are we going to lose if we do this? And I've got this myself. Like I've played small in my life compared to where I probably could have gone because of fear of losing what I've earned. Because being a dyslexic ADHD thinker, I've been all over the place. And when you capture a little bit of consistency, it feels really comfortable. And the idea of going back to complete erratic insanity can be quite scary. Like it sounds like you've had quite an interesting journey in that. And I don't know if you could speak to that part of it.
Yeah, I think there's, for your listeners, the procrastination is because we know we could probably always do it better. And if we did it right now, it might not be the best we could do. So we could think about it a bit more. But I found 3 really good things, and I'm just pulling them out of my head, wherever they're hooked in there right now.
I'd expect nothing less.
All right. And number 1 is unconditional love. And that I got from my mom. And when my life was a living hell, I mean, there's suicide for many children that go through what you and I went through. I was never there because home was my sanctuary and school was my living hell. And she was able to balance that and always told me that, David, I know what's in you. I don't know what's wrong. They didn't even diagnose children back then. And she said, when you're out of school, the world will be your oyster. I know you'll achieve everything. And she was alive for many years to see me do those things. So that's really important. And I do that by giving back to other people. The more I help other people, the more they share stories with me, and it empowers me. So I'm not taking from them. I'm giving them everything I can. What else is also very important in that? And I have a mental block. There's another dyslexic trait. I thought
There's that. It'll collect you and it'll come back to you at 3.
I'm in a minute. So. Yeah, let's see if they do come back. You can ask me something else, and I'll try.
Yeah, and I guess this is key.
Why didn't you tell me that? And I'll try.
Well, mate, don't you worry. As I say, this is the thing with the dyslexic ADHD, and I don't edit a lot of this out because there's no point to it. This is how our brains operate. And for everyone listening, this can happen to you. It doesn't destroy us. Look at what David's created. Look at what I've created. The point being is we're humans. We're imperfect. I think there's definitely that self-awareness that comes with age and experience, which are, if you can break through that self-awareness. But the question was, what are those kind of 3 things like that get you through trying to push through?
Okay. That's the other
area. Yeah.
That'll be true. Probably the number 1, and this will tie into what I'm doing to help children, oral vocabulary. My mom and I, and my dad was an engineer, we spoke with rich language. She wouldn't try and correct me and have me use another word, but that was one of the reasons they thought I was gifted going in, because I could communicate. And for dyslexic people, when you have that barrier of not picking those words up off the page and not communicating as much because we're shutting down, you lose the most powerful tool humanity has ever had. Communication's been there for millions of years. Dyslexia, reading and writing, maybe a few thousand. And all of my success, 100%, yes, being in the right place, staying focused, but my ability to communicate the ideas in my head and feel comfortable and accept what I can't do, that's really at the time. And the other one, and some people believe it, some people don't. I believe in the universe of consciousness, that we're all connected in one way. And I can't make things happen, but I can manifest it in such a way that I always know what I'm aiming at. I talk to people every day. I go to the outcome and then I work backwards and then see what I would have to do. So now I know the pathway, even if I don't truly know it, and I give it my all. And when you do that, you get little wins along the way because you know you reached a certain part of it. And so I've started over 10 companies, and I'm starting my biggest one ever now at 66. And yeah, you go flat out your whole life. If you believe, yeah.
Such thing is no such thing as retirement, right? No, I don't think for any dyslexic thinker you can be retired because your brain will never switch off. So you're better to create a life from the beginning that operates on your timelines. Like I'm the same. Like I've been self-employed and entrepreneur for 15 odd years, and I could never work with someone else. You know, me and my wife went to the cinema for 2 hours to see a movie on Wednesday because we were business owners or we're entrepreneurs. But then we'll work an extra 4 hours at night when we need to get something done. Like we don't work on a timeline of other people. We work on our own. And I think, this is a great segue. Let's get into talking about your project because I am so big on AI at the moment. Before we even got on this call, I was coding using Claude, our new project management system for my business. Like we've literally rebuilt the project management system we spent $3,000 a year on. I've literally coded it from the ground up, better version in a week and a half. Yeah, it's more dyslexic friendly. And so I'm sitting here going, the world is changing. We're in a world where spatial thinking is going to become the most valuable asset in a human. And what I love about what you're doing around AI with the youth, like, tell me more about this project. It sounds absolutely excellent.
So as I said at the beginning, a child has a rich vocabulary typically, especially if the parents read to them. And that's called your oral communicative vocabulary. But all people, we have a receptive vocabulary. And I've studied this in depth. I've been to Stanford, talked to scientists in depth on this, that while we may have 800 to 1,500 words going into grade 1 that we typically feel somewhat comfortable with, we could have 25,000 words. And if we hear it on a TV show or in a book or someone says it, we've got a pretty good idea of what it means. So I looked at that. You mentioned the documentary where I went on a special case. They wanted a victim who would make you learn to read or start to learn to read. Well, the crazy thing was, as I was being shown, my pattern brain is going, my God, is this what reading is? It's so easy. No one ever showed me. So they were showing me how the letters form the words. I wasn't decoding the words. And she went from my vocabulary. So if I was a little kid in school, what's that word? I don't know. What does it mean? I don't know. Learning here, I found a couple of things. I had incredible one-on-one instruction, and there's a lot of science behind how powerful that is with tutors. I knew the language, every word she said to me, I knew the meaning of it already, so I could use it in a sentence. I could define it. I have semantic similarity. And now she showed me a code for putting them on the page. But they didn't know what they were telling me because my mind immediately, I've been in AI for more than 25 years. I have one of the only patents with a partner in the world on AI cybersecurity, way beyond large language models that we're dealing with today. It can work for national security, but it's a very hybrid. It's not based on language. It's based on symbols, which is a pattern again. So when I got back, I spoke to a good friend of mine, Kevin. I said, Kevin, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at this whole language thing. And I don't want to learn how they do it because I've had so many people, oh, we do it this way. I go, no, I'm going to do it from scratch. So we're in the final stages now. We are about to develop. We need to raise just a couple hundred more $1,000s. And I'm not looking to your audience for any money. We will find it. That it is a model that emotionally understands a learner. They're on a tablet. So there's a camera, a microphone, a speaker, and a touch. So we can monitor eye blink rate, dilation, pupil movement. A constriction of eyes means attention is growing. Dilation means it's fading. We've got 100 visual points on the face. We're not doing facial recognition. We're looking at muscle movement. And then we're mapping it. We are looking at voice, tone, porosity, cadence, inflection, all of that, and motor movement of the hand. And when we do that, we build a baseline for a young child so we know their emotional state. Now, we don't start reading and we don't start writing. For weeks or months, we will abstract their receptive language. And the way we can do that is through mathematics. It's an overload probably for everyone, but the English language, for a dyslexic to understand it, there's a formula, or they couldn't have built language models. It's self-creating. We are literally language machines. You prompted me and I'm giving you the answer word by word. I don't know the next word I'm going to say, but
Okay, I'm hoping you're human, David. You could be an AI as far as,
well,
I will.
You know, the
Pretty
thing is,
smart. You could just be sending your AI out to all these.
yeah, well, we've got people way smarter than me, and I want to get them out of the gutter, basically. So I mapped all the words in the English language and found they exist on what's called a power law curve of the frequency of occurrence. Then I looked at what we call semantic similarity, which showed me that if a person learned the word mad, and that is the only word they use, there would have been other words around that conversation that they've picked up, and they may have had that conversation a few times, but they don't use those words. So my machine learning, which is a hybrid of AI, has ongoing conversations, monitoring the emotional state to see how it's affecting them in real time. And for every word that we get in a sentence, that's called non-Markovian autoregression in the science of it. We look at those words, we tie them together with other sentences, and within a couple of hours, and we don't need to do it that quick, for every word we hear them say, we can map 10 words that are in their brain. So what we do for the next while with a young child, we build their oral vocabulary. And as I said, look what you're doing a podcast. So I want to give a child so much power. They can advocate for themselves. They go into the classroom in grade 1, they're reading, writing at a grade 4 level. And we know that if a child can make it through grade 1, 2, and 3, success opportunity. And if I'd have made it through there, well, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, but what the model does, it has so much in it to manage the excitement and the fun and the play, but it is a long way down the line that we can very quickly teach them how to put the squiggles on the page, which is writing. And as soon as you can write, you can read because you're the one who put the writing on there. So we come from their knowledge that they don't even know they have. There's no books, there's no testing, there's no spelling tests, there's no rules. It's all pattern learning. You do not memorize one thing like a touch typist or a violinist or a guitar player. Reading is a skill, but it comes from oral language. The schools can't go there because they don't know the words we know. But when I can pull them out with machine learning and feed them back to the child, they got a vocabulary, they'll go into grade 1 speaking like an adult.
I love that. Like that's amazing because rote learning is so common. Like it's just memorize this. And to be honest, with AI, rote learning's gone. It's absolutely it's not. It's what
You got everything at your fingertips. You don't need to
clear.
memorize.
You need to know how to think. And I think that's the key of what you're talking about. I love that. We've got a 9-year-old, long story, but like she would love like something like this. We'll put her on the test cases for you. She'd be great.
I'm going to let all of your audience go on the trial for free. Well, I'll give it to you. We can do that.
It sounds amazing with what you're doing because like, this is the key. AI is going to be a little game changer, and I've seen some interesting applications. I've even thought about trying to come up with an AI tool that actually does mass diagnosis across all spectrums because I still feel the diagnosis process is stuffed because dyslexia, ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, that you should actually be able to do one simple test and it give you pretty much an 80 to 90% accuracy of diagnosis. It's ridiculous that you can't do that.
We are able to change all that because Reading Road, what it is called, meets a child or adult. So it can be prevention before you go into school and intervention for a teenager up to 80, 90. Because it's all oral communication and we're mapping the brain, it doesn't matter where you start. So if you are neurodivergent or if you have ADHD or dyslexia, we take it into account once we start working with you. But the beauty is, here's the test. Tell me 5 words. If the person can say a word, we can start mapping their receptive vocabulary. And before they even know it, their oral vocabulary is growing, the excitement goes up, the integration goes up. It's all storytelling and play. And when they get so excited about it, they want to put it on the page because that book is actually going to be published through Amazon Print on Demand. Their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, a real book. They're 5 years old. They're an entrepreneur. And we set all of that up for them in the application, and they realize that they matter and that they've got a voice. It doesn't have to be a wonderful book, but we're going to help them. But all of what they're doing now, they're reading to people the words and the language that they own.
It's so powerful, mate. Like I always remember when I first started this podcast a year or two in, I ended up interviewing Miss South Dakota. She was one of the beauty queens, and she told me she was dyslexic. She was a big advocate. She's probably a great advocate for what you're doing, actually. And she said to me at the age of, I think it was 4 or 5, she was sitting in a classroom with the other kids and they were all trying to read and she couldn't read. She couldn't read, but her brain was smart enough to see the pattern that they were opening and flipping the pages by. So she just copied the pattern and looked like she knew what she was doing. And there was enough pictures that she could divulge the story, the pattern of the story, just from the pictures. And, this is too common a story that we see day in and day out. And I think, so tell me, how far along on the journey are you? Are you quite deep? How long have you been doing this? Yeah, a bit of, I'm a gilder of this stuff.
Worked backwards on everything. So first of all, I looked at what the problem was so I would understand it. I didn't realize, this is shocking, 70% of all children in the education system right now in North America can't read at grade level. So in grade 4, they're reading at grade 2. But reading instruction ends in the end of grade 3. So now they're stumbling all the way through school, drop out, don't participate. But that tells us something. It's not only neurodivergent, because that's only 25 or 30% possibly of the population. We've got another 40% that are getting trauma because it is hard to learn to read by decoding. So once I understood that I had to get phonics out of the way, now that's like the antichrist to everyone in education. Phonics is supposedly the thing. Every intervention is phonics. So I thought, well, if we're going to solve a big problem, there better be a big problem behind it. And as soon as I realized it's not about decoding, it's about using your own language. So I went out all over North America and in Europe, and I met with, on Zoom, the top PhDs in literacy, in cognitive science, in affect neuroscience, in child psychology. And I started explaining to them what I'm going to do. So in my company right now, we have over 30 of the world's top PhDs supporting it. So it's working the way the brain works. Then I went to all the user groups. There's millions of people online, mothers suffering with their children. And said, if I was to do this, do you want to try it? And if we do, would you spread the word? And then I got in touch with every organization that helps underprivileged, because my goal is to have anyone, it's $47. But if they can't afford it, they'll go in through a nonprofit and we'll provide it for free, because they shouldn't be punished or something like that. And the same with incarceration. Everyone in jail will have it for free. I'm trying to do a humanitarian thing and bring critical thinking back. We need to think. But the dyslexic children, especially, if we can get them out of grade 12 and bring them into a world of AI, they'll run the AI. We've got people scared of AI. That's because their brains don't think what it's capable of doing. I can change the whole world's reading with a version of machine learning AI. You can do anything. And like you said, you can build your own program better. I do that too. But what I want is those incredible minds to feel worthy when they graduate.
I don't think the world realizes quite how big this group is. I really think it's underestimated, personally, in the world. I truly believe it is massively underestimated, the numbers we're talking about. Like, dyslexia, I've heard numbers. Yale came out and said they believe 20% of the population is dyslexic. There's actually a study on it. It's
And not as high as 25.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the amount of people I see that are undiagnosed is remarkable. And some of them have gone through life pretty well. They've fought through, really have built resilience from it. But also there's a heap that haven't. There's a heap that have hit walls. Like, what do they say? We'll either become a famous entrepreneur or we'll go to prison. It's whatever. It's majority go one way or the other, right?
Your self-belief, and just even when you feel the doubt push through, that other side isn't that far away. I look at the world now and I think we need those dyslexic minds out there. They will change everything. And if you look online, you've probably done it, the list of Picasso, Einstein, Edison, Michelangelo, they were all dyslexic, or they believed to being dyslexic, because you need that kind of thinking. And for me, with AI, like spell checking was the last big thing that changed my life. It was 30 years ago. But I think parents of dyslexic children in your listening audience can validate even more when I said about the unconditional love. Means love for who someone is, not who you want them to be, because they'll turn into what they can be. And when I can start to move this out to the world, we'll have children that are speaking is natural. The brain's wired to speak. We don't have to be taught. Well, the reason reading is so hard, there's no circuitry. So if we use our pattern learning system and not our memorization system, which is up here at the front, we don't suffer. We thrive on it.
Yeah, it's all patterns, right? Oh, honestly, it's all patterns. I agree. It's why engineering comes so natural, right? It's because you can see the pattern. It's why, when I'm developing a piece of software, I can see it from workflow start to end. I can picture it. So when I'm getting it built, I'm building it without the blueprint's already in my memory.
And it's here.
And
I'll tell you
I think,
the top five careers for dyslexic people, for parents out there, so they know if they can get them through. Architect, which I did. Engineering, which I wanted to do. Pilot, believe it or not, the highest propensity is in there. Entrepreneur, and the fifth one, can't remember right now, but I will tell you this. The stats are online. 30% of all entrepreneurs are dyslexic or ADHD or on some sort of spectrum, and 40% of all self-made millionaires are on the same spectrum. So there's hope. Just support the children and believe.
if you can get through, and it's exactly what you say, if you can get through the emotional regulation problems, because that's one of the biggest challenges is not being able to understand that emotional side as well. And it can be really erratic. And I think what you're doing around putting that into the reading writing process is actually the most valuable. You're looking at what's the mechanism in the brain that we work with, patterns, and two, what's the biggest thing that holds us back? It's the emotional regulation around what we're doing. If you can think, you take those two things, use AI to support it and make it work at a scale,
Well,
you can't lose.
I told you with my technology, the most important thing is emotional regulation. We manage and support the child. That's the gateway. After that, learning is patterns. And the most valuable time to learn is between the ages of 4, 5, 6, and 7. Even Plato said, give me the child until he is 7 or 8, and I will give you the man. They knew that 2,000 years ago. The schools can't start early. We can, but we can also intervene, we'll be able to, for those suffering. But the problem is the trauma starts in grade 1, and if it's there, it doesn't go away. We all have it for life.
David, you're a star. If you're going to leave the audience with one thing to think about, and I also want to know exactly where they can go to find out about what you're doing, what would you tell that dyslexic person, parent, kid out there? What do they need to know?
Well, I'll do parents and children. If it's a child wanting to know, have faith that the way you're being taught is not the right way. And look out for what I'll be bringing to market. And as I said, all your audience will have it at no cost if they want to register at something for it. For the parents, I've said it, and it is the number one thing, unconditional love for your children. Don't criticize them. Don't tell them they didn't do their homework correctly. They can't. I wanted to learn, and I suffered bad. I got the strap put in the corner, put in the hallway, humiliated. But we do want to learn, because if we have the opportunity later, we learn better than most people. So unconditional love and believing in yourself as a child. To get a hold of me, the application, it's a platform. It's not an app. It's not a website. It's not a portal. It'll be an infrastructure worldwide. It's Reading Road, READING, ROAD, one word, AI. There's only a placeholder there right now because it will run on tablets. It's designed for computers. If they go there and they want to sign up, they will get it for free. Everyone, there's thousands of people. We will have a testing period for it, and I'll gladly give it away. We have to make some money off of it because I've got to pay investors for investing in the company, and they'll do well on a problem this big, but there's no barrier for anyone if they want to learn to read.
And that's the point is no one has a problem with paying money for something that adds value. Like that's where people ask. I think the challenge prior to AI is they haven't been able to create something that can do what you're saying. I think everyone's known that something like this is needed, but AI at this level and this cost base is so much better than it's ever been, right? Well, mate, I'll have to have you back at some point to talk more about this because I'm enjoying this. I want to go deeper on your other businesses because we did not talk enough about them. I want to hear, you can't just say I invented video on mobile and we can't dig deeper on that. So I'm definitely having you back, David. Thank you so much for your time and for all the listeners. Have an epic day, and I'll make sure all of those.
Oh, you know what, sorry to interrupt you. My email address, people want to ask me questions. No one ever believes I get back to them, and I do, and they freak out. So it's david@talkcorp.com. I'm connected with hundreds of people around the world.
Oh, you start.
It's me.
It's a real human. It's a real human ring. That's rare, but it'll happen. But have an excellent day, everybody, and back next week.